All right, Eduardo, we're seeing a lot more buyers that are buying here as an investment. So let's say somebody in the United States wanted to buy a property. Here is a question. Can I purchase a property in Mexico 100% remotely from the United States, or do I have to come down? Do I need to have a wet signature?
Okay, we can divide that into two aspects. One is you do not need to be here for closing and to purchase property, so you can do that remotely. The other part is you do need someone in your place instead to have a wet signature in place. We do not have yet the proper protocols in place for e-signatures. There are a number of efforts, and we will probably get there in a couple of years with what we have as an e-signature for taxes. And that is issued by the Mexican IRS, Secretaría de Hacienda, and it's associated to your RFC number, which is your taxpayer number in Mexico. But what happens if you don't have one, then you're basically without an e-signature. That would validate your free will and in the transaction to purchase a certain piece of property, and that would be your way of consent to having this e-signature. So with that in mind, the next best thing is to have a power of attorney in place for closing. And the majority of my clients, I'd have to say probably 80% of them, issue me a limited power of attorney under certain protocols. First off, the power of attorney has to be dual column. We prepare that at the firm, Spanish and English. And it's done by way of a 1940 treaty between Mexico and the U.S. and other American states throughout the Western Hemisphere, let's say. And the U.S. is a party to that. It's a convention where those powers of attorney issued in one country will serve the purpose in another, as long as they are within that same protocol. So with those powers of attorney granted, let's say in the States, what you do is you have that power of attorney that we draft in dual column, and that power of attorney is issued before a notary public. Basically, the notary public in the States or anywhere else attest only to the signature. And you basically have your identity and signature. So I know notary publics in the States are much more common, and so they basically attest to the signature and to the identity. The contents of the power of attorney, which is the one I'm more interested in, is that we drafted in such a fashion to conform to the protocol for powers of attorney. And when I say a limited power of attorney, it's limited to the purchase of a certain piece of land or a certain house or unit, condominium, or limited to the sale of that. So it's obviously limited in that scope. And the wording in Spanish is the one that the notary public here in Mexico will take to the bank, in the sense of having the English language portion as a convenience, really, and having the Spanish one control. And so basically we make sure that those two language columns are basically not identical. They're two languages and they're separate, but they mean the same thing. And so the person that's granting the power of attorney abroad knows what they're signing. And the Spanish portion is the one that's going to be formalized before a Mexican notary public. There's another process involved, that once that signature is placed on the power of attorney abroad and it's notarized, that document has to then go to a process before the Secretary of State. That Secretary of State is in each of the 50 states in the United States, so that they do a process called apostille, and it's a French word, and it's another treaty that's a 1961 Hague Convention treaty where they did away with legalization of documents. Back in the day, you needed to have legalization of documents from one country, have to go to the consulate general, and so diplomatic channels were used for this purpose. Now, under the auspices of the Hague Convention to eliminate legalization, what you do is you present the power of attorney that was granted abroad with the signature of the notary public, and the Secretary of State issues an apostille under the Hague Convention, and it's done in each of the 50 states in the States. And they validate that that person is in fact a noted public for the state of X. And that is good under the Hague Convention, so that they affix an apostille, that's that French word, at the reverse part, or sometimes at a separate page of the power of attorney. With those documents in place now, with the apostille, then you are good to use that power of attorney abroad, in this case, Mexico. A curious fact about this, Canada is not a party to the Hague Convention, so Canada does require legalization of signatures through the diplomatic channels. But for example, Australia and many other countries are part of this convention. And so the notary public in Mexico, who is a licensed attorney and is bonded and issued that license by the state government in Mexico, takes that power of attorney and requires the official translation of the apostille section and the notary section, so that they can then formalize the power of attorney, and then you or someone that would issue the power of attorney can purchase remotely. So yes, you can purchase remotely. You do need that wet signature in this case for in this case your representative. So that's really in the long explanation to that very precise question.